What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Scratch Agency podcast, hosted by Scratch Agents for Scratch Agents. My name is Stephen Turnbull, founder of T5 Insurance Services in Clinton, New York, and I'm joined by my co-host today, the one and only, you already know, hold your applause, Mr. Sean Fitzgerald, founder of Sound Harbor Insurance in beautiful Long Island, New York. Mr. Fitz, what's going on today,
A
sir?
whole bunch of stuff, man. Trying to run an agency, you know how that goes. So I'm
Never
ready
heard
to
of it.
take like a 30-minute break here and talk about some restaurant insurance.
Love it. You're a hard man to get a hold of these days, See you at the meetup, and now it's just, oh, I'm at the gym, doing this, kids. Run an
Growing an
agency, they
agency,
said.
man, and having a family.
Run an
I'm not doing
agency.
a lot. I'm building an
Super
agency.
excited for today's conversation. I think I'm thinking back. I don't think we've had anything this intentional around this topic, but we have Brennen Grone, who is the EVP of Sales with Rainbow, and looking to dive in deep. But Brennan, you were a Scratch agent, so we certainly want to hit that on the Scratch Agency broadcast. But just really appreciate you taking the time today to join us. How are you?
Doing great. And it's really fun to be here. I've listened to you guys before, have enjoyed the content you put out. And I think what you do here is really cool. Opening a scratch agency, as you both know, is really challenging. I remember I was probably a little too young to open my agency. I think I was 25 when we opened the Indy here in St. Louis. We had one kid, we had a baby on the way. And man, all of a sudden I'm sweating, making rent every month, making sure I can pay my producers. And it was a whole lot at once. So I love what you guys do here and how you're really here to support agents on a similar journey. Um, hey, I got into the industry at a young age. I'm from an insurance family. My grandfather Pete and my dad Bob are State Farm guys. So I got started in the captive world with State Farm. Quickly wanted to get out of the box and go independent. It was a great decision. And I've just been hooked ever since. I remember as a kid, I thought insurance was really boring. I didn't know what these premiums were talking about. The claims kind of made sense. My dad was the guy we'd drive around and be like, I insure that house and I insure that house. I'd be like, wow, that's really interesting, Dad. Um, and then I quickly turned into that dad as an adult. But in my time at Rainbow, it's been special because I've been able to merge together kind of two family backgrounds and legacies. The Grone family here in St. Louis owned and operated a restaurant chain for many years called the Grone Cafeteria. So I have all these good memories of going to the restaurant back in the day as a kid, learning about insurance as a kid, and I really get to kind of marry all that together in my work every day.
Hmm.
And what I love most about what I do in kind of this InsurTech MGA space is that I get to advocate for our agent customers every day. It's a customer that I know, that I empathize with. I understand the operational issues, the stresses, what's going on kind of behind the scenes. And it's a customer base that I'm truly passionate about because I feel like I understand them so well. So I love what I do every day. I love working with our agents, and it's candidly at Rainbow, it's probably the most fun I've had selling something in my entire career. So excited to tell you guys a little about it.
That's super cool. So how long did you have the Scratch agency before you pivoted on the MGA side?
Yeah, I was there for about 3.5 years.
Cool.
So relatively short stint. We grew pretty quickly. Um, the company that I affiliated myself with, that I think very highly of, to get started quickly, was making some changes. I was there during COVID time, and I was part of a you sell, we service model.
Mm,
And despite their best efforts, COVID really wreaked havoc on the kind of insurance service center uh, concept.
sure.
All these companies are set up to have the call center in person, all the people in office, lots of training, support, QA. And when you send that kind of a customer force, or I guess a service force, to work from home, honestly, everything broke. My economics had broken overnight, and so by 2022, I was ready to make a change, and that's how I ended up at the last insurtech I was working with. And I thought I would be there for a year, maybe 18 months, ride out my non compete, non solicit, and then go back into agency. and I've been having so much fun running sales at MGAs and working with agents. I don't know if I'll ever go back. Although I do, as I was telling you guys before we started, I do miss it. Probably, a couple times a month. I'm like, that looks really fun. I want to get on the phone with the agent and help close the deal with
Yeah,
the
that's
insured.
cool. That's cool,
Mm.
Brendan. So 2020 happens, and then you slowly transition into the other MGA and then Rainbow to specialize in restaurants, which is not what I would expect you to specialize in after going through what happened in COVID. So yeah, tell me how
Right?
that, like, what what made you gravitate towards that? I know you said you had a family business that you got involved with, but just explain a little bit, like, what
Yeah.
made Rainbow focus on restaurants, what kind of attracted you to that, and then just like, what advice would you give to newer agents that are maybe thinking about niching down into that space?
Yeah. Awesome question. So, the foundation story of Rainbow is an interesting one. And essentially, our founder and CEO, Bobby, is has become an insurance guy, is an entrepreneur at heart, and had been involved in an E&S InsurTech for several years that has done very well, and was really interested in getting into the admitted space. Saw a lot of opportunity there, I think, as we all do. And one thing that I think has really emerged post COVID is agents and companies need to really narrow in on what their niche is, what they know they can underwrite really well as the market has hardened. And at Rainbow, we have a philosophy that there are a lot of class codes out in the market that are showing either signs of distress or that the market is hardening around. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And that we think we can bring specialized underwriters in our human underwriting team alongside some technology or AI edges that we think we can bring in from this incredible tech team we've built out in our San
Mm.
Francisco office to really marry those two things together and provide this great lever for agents to pull that's going to be there long term. So I like to tell folks, I don't think Rainbow fell into the insure tech trap, which I really see as manifesting in two ways. One, I see a lot of the early insure techs that I'm really grateful for because they paved the road for us. They played this game I like to call the shortest application wins.
Mm.
And it makes it really easy for agents to quote. And a lot of times the rates come out cheap. But inevitably, those insure techs implode at a certain point and have to really narrow their appetite, non renew a lot of business, flail around in the marketplace. And it puts a lot of onus back on the agent to move that business back around, which we all know is really challenging to do, especially if you have a small staff. Um, the other piece of the insure tech trap that I see still happening a lot is companies coming out and saying, we don't need human underwriters. Our technology can do all the underwriting for you. And I just don't think it's there yet. So at Rainbow, we've really had this great mix of we have powerful technology tools that we utilize all the time to amplify our teams, but we never lost sight of the fact that you need great specialized underwriters and salespeople like me and my team to really help agents communicate the gray areas that an application can't capture, to help people understand the risk we're taking on, how to price it, how to make it competitive, and how to properly protect the insured.
Yeah, that's great. I love that you said specialized underwriting. And I think that's underrated because when I think about it, like, I even think about some of my underwriters in the past from some of the top national carriers. Think about the workload they have and the knowledge they need to have for every different type of business in multiple states. I can't even imagine how you could get that right. Like, right now I was going through training a licensed commercial lines CSR, and we have, we write restaurants, we do contractors, we do some, lesser risks and stuff like that. And just to train him on like three different things are all completely different. I have to teach him
Mm.
liquor liability, assault and battery. Then with contractors, I got to teach him New York labor law and pollution coverage and all this different stuff. And I'm like, man, has to be so overwhelming for him. And I have to imagine most underwriters that aren't specialized probably deal with that. you know? So,
Yeah. Well, and when you think about it, outside of large and mid market, most legacy carriers just have like a small commercial underwriting department. And sure, there's a couple specialized leaders there, but you said it well. That day to day small commercial underwriter is going to touch a contractor, a small piece of property. They're going to touch commercial auto. They're going to touch some GL. I mean, the breadth of class codes they're underwriting on a daily basis. That's
yeah.
challenging.
So besides the specialized underwriting, I would like to touch on like two other things, that I feel like Rainbow does really well. One of them would be like the resource guide that you guys have for insurance agents. Would you mind touching on that a little bit? Because I think that'd be helpful, especially
Yeah,
especially
I'd
an
love to.
agent looking to get into the hospitality space.
Yeah. Well, and I see at a high level, I've seen for the last couple of years as personal lines has gotten so volatile. Every agent I talk to is like, we want to get more into commercial. Personal lines is so crazy. We want a more stable portion of our book, and I can't blame them. At Rainbow, we've really worked on our resource center to make sure that we can empower agents not just to sell policies, but to help their insureds understand how to run a safer business. And you're right, our resource center has anything from NFPA guidelines to foodborne illness awareness and how to protect yourself against that. We have some tried and true marketing guides that I'm really proud of the work we've done on that to help agents that maybe don't know how to go market to a restaurant understand the key things to hit on. I do shamelessly plug some of our coverage lines in those. To shamelessly plug one right now that I think hits really well is our BI coverage is ALS. It has an 18-month limit on it and a 0 hour wait period. That's very differentiated in the market. And it's a really great way for the agent to come in and lead to the insured. I have some specialized coverage I can offer you that you might not be able to get elsewhere.
Yeah, it's
So we have a lot of different pieces of collateral in there to help
yeah.
agents, get out in the
And
field
you
and
know
win.
which one caught my attention too? I feel like it slid under the radar a little bit. Is you have like an SEO for agents flyer that basically is a whole guide on how to boost your local SEO for free by using specific content that they recommend, which I thought was super helpful too.
A lot of this was a labor of love for
Mhm.
us, but I distinctly remember opening my agency and I knew how to sell. Like I was a great producer. I knew how to sell policies. I was a good sales manager. I knew how to train producers. What I wasn't a pro at was marketing. And that was hard. It was hard to figure out. And I remember like looking at my wife on these late nights and being like, gosh, I wish there was a playbook for this. So we wanted to put together a basic playbook for agents to understand how to really stand out. And you'll get the basic playbooks from people of, well, you need to create a center of influence and go meet a commercial lender or go do this. But how do you really stand out in the actual insured marketplace and have people making your phone ring and visiting your website and driving that traffic? So the SEO guide has been a big hit. And we're always looking for more resources or ways to help agents win. Frankly, whether or not they end up right in the business with us.
Yeah, and I think from a sales perspective too, just sitting down with a lot of restaurant owners myself, the resource guide can come in real handy. And I even think about a time I won a restaurant account. I added in. So I think like with business owners, there, of course, a lot of them are, price driven, but having these extra resources can help you dramatically in the sales process, whether it's helping them say, hey, listen, if you go with us, we can provide you with an employee handbook, which can help protect you with this, this, and this. We can provide you with the manager closing checklist that you discussed and the foodborne illness guide. Like all these things position you to be a specialist, which uh, someone will pay a few $100s more a year or $1,000 more a year to go with you if you can provide them with all those things to help them, you know, avoid a disaster potentially, you know? So, yeah.
So
One thing I wanted to ask you on that is I feel like a lot of people think every single person is price driven. What is kind of your take on that? Because I do know, listen, I've been doing a lot of business in the restaurant space for a while, and a lot of the times it is, but you have to be able to position yourself in the right way. Like, what do you think is like your value add for restaurant owners?
Yeah. I think it depends on the size and scope of the restaurants we're talking about. So for the kind of the small mom and pop single location, we have a Slack channel at Rainbow called App Binds, and it's just a constant feed of policies that are binding. And I'm of course addicted to it because I love watching the binds come through. And we just did a nice sushi shop in San Francisco. It was like $3,000. What moved the needle on that deal? It was that the policy we were offering through the agent, it was a pop. The insured previously had a GL. They didn't have any BPP or property coverage built in. We were able to get them a very similar rate. It was a little bit more expensive. I think they're spending about $400 extra a year, but they have all the coverage lines they need. They have the BPP coverage. They have the BI, just to name a couple, right? We know that that's chock full of coverage compared to a basic GL. But helping the insured really understand a risk that they're taking by taking basic coverage or bare bones coverage is the name of the game in the small commercial space, right? And I've always said, facts tell and stories sell. And oftentimes, like a kindly told claim story can really help an insured understand the risk they're taking that they just don't realize. They're like, hey, I got the insurance. I got what my landlord required. What the heck else do you want from me? And if you can sit there and help them understand that, the smoke blowing in from a wildfire that I pray doesn't happen in Northern California anytime soon could put them with a business closure for 2 weeks. And they might not be able to survive a business closure of 2 weeks. I know how thin the margins are on a restaurant, and that could put a lot of small businesses out.
Mm. Brendan, I want to touch on what we talked about early on about the advantage of you being from the agent side to now on the MGA. And I know the answer is probably obvious to a lot of the listeners. And I think it's like Sean and I have been talking about it recently in some cases. Like you just get an underwriter and it's like, man, insert underwriter here, insert marketing rep or whatever company representative. Like if they haven't been on the agent side, they don't understand the amount of work that it takes to service the book, the amount of work that it takes to get the apps across the finish line, all of that. And I think it's music to the ears of an agent if you're working with an underwriter that was an agent or has that experience because you've been there, you understand the challenges, you understand the operations more than somebody who maybe has worked their career through the carrier side. Talk to us from your standpoint of what differentiators you think you bring and how you've been able to imply those directly to Rainbow as you guys have built this out.
Yeah, awesome question. Well, I can't emphasize enough that, the role of me at Rainbow and more importantly my team that's growing is we're here every day to advocate for our agents and help get deals from declined or referred into bound.
Mm,
That's our ultimate goal every day. And oftentimes you don't see underwriters with agency or production experience. And by and large, it makes sense. People have different skills and talents. And I've found that typically the best underwriters are highly technical. They're very introspective people that aren't always the best oral communicators. Now, I'm not talking about anybody at Rainbow, but just in general, some of the best actuarials or underwriters I've met are not people you'd want to put in front of a customer, right? And so inherently, I think a lot of that field is made up of people that find more success working behind the scenes than on the front line. And so that's where I think having a team like me and my squad here at Rainbow, our regional sales managers, we're really here, like I said, to help fill in that gray space, right? We have a 44 question application. I think it's very thorough. And there's a ton of stuff that goes on in between the app and reality that we're here to help the agents translate into, a bindable quote.
mm,
So I think that what I love about our underwriting team at Rainbow is I think one, they're friendly and they're very personable, and they're always open to having a phone call or an email interaction with an agent, which not all underwriters are. But I think more importantly, we put an emphasis not just on the fact that we're available and friendly, but that we're fast. So our underwriters operate with from 8 to 8 Eastern time, a 2-hour SLA. So if an independent agent hits the refer button in the Rainbow platform, you're going to hear from one of my underwriters in less than 2 hours.
Huge.
Oftentimes that's just saying, hey, it's good to bind. It all made sense. Thanks so much. Every once in a while, we'll have some questions. Um, we've actually been able to this year leverage the great work this underwriting team does into what I call a true mid-market multi-location program where, towards the end of Q2, we wrote one of the biggest policies we've written since Rainbow's inception. It was a 7-figure deal, 100 plus locations on the policy, touched 6 states. And so we were able to help a really nice agent compete against some direct to consumer national players and keep the deal within their book, which felt really good. Now, that didn't happen in a 2-hour SLA. That deal took us a couple weeks to put together. There was a lot of back and forth. But when you work with a small specialized organization like Rainbow, you had me and our EVP of underwriting and the large accounts underwriter on Zoom calls with the agent on a weekly basis, making sure we were hitting target pricing, that the coverages were just right, that all the locations would be eligible compared to coastal proximity and wildfire zones. When you're dealing with over 100 locations, this gets pretty beefy and unwieldy to work with. But I think our small, agile team that's growth hungry was really there to go to bat for the agent and help them win.
Yeah, that's all.
Expand on this conversation of what you mentioned. I wrote down human underwriting.
Yeah,
I'll just leave the ball right there. Take that and run with
yeah,
it.
let's do it. Yeah. So I remember, I think it was 2018. I remember going through the old Appalachian Underwriters platform and saying like, what are these InsurTech companies? I want to know more about that. And I remember trying it out a couple of times and it went fine. Like the apps were short, they were easy to fill, but you would either bind it or you would walk away because it looked like a hassle. There's nobody to get a hold of, there's nobody to talk to. You can't ask any questions. It's truly, you go through the app and you either can bind it or they decline it. And like I keep saying, there's so much gray area in what we do. And so at Rainbow, I think we've really cultivated this environment where the underwriters aren't hiding behind a screen somewhere. You can pick up a phone and talk to somebody. They're willing to hear out your narrative. And if they're for some reason unavailable, or maybe the agent wants to talk to somebody else about it, that's where me and my team come in. And a good example of human underwriting for the win. I have a published guideline in my appetite guide that says we will not take on more than 10 million in revenue per location. We'll consider things by referral, but oftentimes when agency by referral, they think the deal's dead in the water. I remember when I was an agent, I felt that way. We were able to write a nice business in Southern California that had nearly 15 million in annual revenue. I had to work a little bit with underwriting on it, but I know this great agent. I met him in Vegas earlier this year at a conference. We had dinner. We talked about some opportunities. We went on an 8 at the place together. We took some photos. We put together a nice narrative for our underwriting department about the insured. We got on a call, explained it to underwriting. We got it cleared by Accelerant, who's been a great partner of ours since inception. And we were able to bind a single location 100K plus deal as that agent's first transaction with Rainbow.
Super cool.
And we wouldn't have been able to do that without an underwriter willing to hop on the call with us, go to bat for us with Accelerant, explain the risk. It's truly where I think like the teamwork and collaboration goes a
Yeah,
long way.
that's huge. I think one thing you touched on too, which is really beneficial, and Stephen, I know you and I are working on a couple of things together right now, is being able to put multiple locations on one policy, and it be a BOP, because Stephen and I knew somebody where they had basically policies all over the place, one with CNA, one with
Mm.
coterie, one with, it was just all over the place. And what was an interesting selling point is to consolidate it all onto one, even though it could potentially be a little bit more expensive. It saves the business owner a ton of time, and it just makes his life 100 times easier, which you could argue those soft costs are actually saving him money. So it's just, I feel like that's just an interesting perspective to think of. Like, don't just quote it. And if it's a little more, just instantly be like, okay, I'm just going to move on to another carrier. Like, I think it is a interesting and cool thing that you guys do that is actually super helpful, especially for the restaurant owner that has multiple locations.
It's been a big value add for us. The thing I love most, I think, when I think back to being an agent, it's the combined billing. And we've all seen that situation where, the insured is a really busy entrepreneur. They have 20 policies with 3 different agents, and they call you in a frenzy one day and they say, "Hey, I thought that policy renewed and it didn't, and I don't have coverage here." With a big schedule of risks, you avoid that scare, that panic, and inevitably you avoid an uncovered claim because you just forgot to
Yeah.
renew.
Brennan, you guys
Mhm.
in all states in the US?
We're live
All
in
30.
30
Okay.
states now. We will continue growing. We have some new programs always in the works. So Rainbow was founded on restaurants. It's our bread and butter, pun intended. Um, However, we've launched a second program we're calling Beauty, Wellness, and Fitness. That's live in 10 states, should be live in all 30, maybe 28 by year's end. I don't know about California and New York. They move a little slowly. Um, but yeah, beauty, wellness, fitness should be live with our restaurant footprint by year's end as well. That program focuses on a little bit smaller risks. We do things like nail salons, hair salons, barbershops. We'll do instructor-led fitness there. We're starting to see some real success with that. Funny enough, we're actually quoting a really large hair salon chain with that program right now, which could actually really raise the average premium, which would be fun. But when I think about a personal lines heavy agent or a scratch agent that hasn't sold commercial before wanting to cut their teeth, I'd much rather them go to bat on a couple of barbershops first.
Mm.
Those are easy at bats to take. It's a simpler application. It's a simpler risk to understand. And I think, I mean, frankly, they're faster quotes and they're easier transactions because the premium is low. That's also underwritten on our BOP. It's on the same admitted accelerant national paper, which is A- rated. We offer professional liability by endorsement on that program. So we've seen a lot of success there. Excited for it to continue growing. But when we talk about helping agents that are new to commercial or just new as a scratch agent, that's a great one to get started on. The businesses are everywhere. They're easy to door knock and get into. Everybody needs to get a haircut, and it's a good place to start.
What's the premium requirements look like if a new agent wants to get appointed with you guys? Do you have specific premium requirements? Like, how hard is that process to go through?
We have no production requirements. That will not change. Over time, I will issue out production requirements to get access to our mid-market program. But as of right now, that's pretty free game as well. The only market where we are being very selective about agency appointments right now is New York. I've written in that market through the MGA space for many years and wanted us to enter slowly, to be careful and make sure we protect our book and agent reputations as we get out in the market. Because I want to make sure, I look at my job at Rainbow, other than growth, is to make sure that we're on your shelf 10 years from now, not
Mm.
just for the next couple of years. So we've been slow and steady in New York on purpose, but every other market we're wide open and would love to get agents appointed. And the appointment process is crazy easy. The form just takes a couple of minutes. You don't even have to upload any documents to be able to get logged in and run a couple of test quotes. And to gain bind authority, all you have to do is upload us a couple of licenses, your your W-9, and DocuSign a producer agreement. So typically we see agents get appointed within a couple of hours.
Super cool. Yeah, just be cautious of that Sound Harbor guy. If you're worried about New York, you got to watch out for him.
That's what I've heard.
Red
Word
flag
on
him.
the streets. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, New York.
So
I
cool.
get you. I totally get being cautious about New York. I mean, there's probably been a handful of incidences that I've seen with restaurant accounts. And it's gotten to the point now where any business owner I talk to, I say, please, for the love of God, get cameras installed all along the outside of your location and make sure the security cameras are backed up for X amount of days, because the amount of slip and falls where there's no proof of any fall whatsoever, that an attorney gets in that person's ear and the insurance company just decides to settle for 15, 20 grand because they don't want to go to court fighting it, is absolutely absurd. So if you are a New York agent
It'll
listening to
eat you
this,
up. The sidewalk laws are
yeah.
brutal.
So if you are a New York
Yeah, the
agent
sidewalk
listening
laws
to
are
this,
brutal, man.
tell all your business owners to get cameras outside their location.
It's great advice, Sean. I'm a big fan of it. And if you get insurance with Rainbow, we'll give you a discount for the cameras.
There you go. Love it. Brennen, thank you so much for being here. We'll wrap this puppy up. I really appreciate all the insight. Just if you could wrap up quick with how people can get in touch with you, where to the appointment process or the resource guide, all that stuff that we touched on. What's the best place for them to get in touch?
Absolutely, Stephen. So the easiest way to find us is to go to userainbow.com, USE, the word rainbow.com. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me and my sales team directly. We're at sales@userainbow.com via email. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me. We try to be really easy to access and find, so you shouldn't have to look too hard to find us.
Awesome. Thanks again for taking the time. We appreciate it. Everybody, make sure to check them out. It's another episode of the Scratch NC podcast. Thanks for joining us. Do us a favor, like the show, share the show, and subscribe. And most importantly, remember to dig down deep, believe in yourself, and own your own future. We'll see you next week. Take care.